My name is George Vlad Stan. I am a master's student in artificial intelligence at the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. I'll give you a brief background about me. I was born in Romania. I grew up in communism and post-communism. I moved to the United States for a big part of my life, and I did my bachelor's there at the University of Wisconsin. And after that, I decided to move back to Europe. So I moved to the Netherlands, and this is where I'm doing the master's in artificial intelligence in Amsterdam. What I want to talk about today is my project, which concerns languages. I've been my whole life passionate about languages, and I've had the opportunity to learn 6 languages until now. So I'm really excited to do anything related to languages. And at the same time, my passion with AI is to find ways to use it to improve parts of society and communities rather than just for commercial purposes and for fun and for those kind of things. So try to use AI for something more useful to society. So the title for my work is called Automated Speech Recognition in Uncommon Languages. So what I do is I collect sounds, collect words in different languages, and I use machine learning. As Gosta explained earlier, I use machine learning algorithms to help the computer learn how to recognize when certain words are spoken in a specific language. And for the beginning, I will focus on recognizing the words yes and no. This can become very useful in, for example, call centers or phone calls for information for people in different parts of the world, where it's easier for people to answer questions verbally than to write or to dial numbers on a phone. After this, what I have to do is expand my search, and so the future of the project will include other words such as numbers from 0 to 9, and different words that would be seen as very useful for expanding the speech recognition. So I'll give you a quick overview of the process. So first I collect the data, which involves using a web application to that can be sent to people, for example, like a link, so that people can say the words that we're trying to learn. And with enough samples of those words, we can then try and train machine learning models to recognize these words in the speech. So I've created a web application, which looks, I hope everyone can see my screen, which looks like this, and it's at web URL called vocesrares.nl. I will post it to the chat after the presentation. And in this application, this is the first part, so the speech data collection. In this application, you can select the language you want to record for, and you can be in a quiet room so that the quality of the recording is high. And you can then record yourself saying the words yes, and then saying the word no, and then play it back to hear if you're satisfied with the quality of your recording. And if you're happy with it, then you can send it, and I will receive your recording, and I can use it as part of my algorithm training. From the drop-down menu here, there are many languages that can be selected, and more can be added very easily. A challenge for this was that these applications need to be very low resource intensive, so they need to be able to work on phones that are not extremely fast or extremely advanced, or computers that are not extremely fast. So I wrote the application in basic HTML and with simple JavaScript, so that these this application can work on any device. And it occupies also very little space, because if the internet connection is not very strong, depending on the part of the world that is being used, then downloading even 10 megabytes can be a challenge. So the application is only a few hundred kilobytes, I believe 400 kilobytes. So it's very small. And yeah, it's fully functional and it's live right now. What I would like to say is that if you try it now, after the link is posted, you should keep in mind that the microphone for Zoom will be muted. So it's better to try it after the presentation, I think, especially if you want to speak afterwards. After I collect enough data for a specific language, then I can start training a model for that language. So I can do the data processing, prepare the data so that it's in a format that a specific algorithm I will use can recognize. Someone has the microphone not muted, and I can hear. So process the data, make it in a way that the algorithm can understand it. And I have an example here of how I process the data for yes and no. So I converted the audio data into image data. So this becomes a spectrogram, which is in the first part. You can see the spectrogram of my voice saying yes 3 times. And on the lower part, you can see myself saying the no 3 times. And you can see that the difference is quite big, even for a human eye. So this can be quite this is quite good news. If the difference between words is high enough, then you need less samples to create a machine learning algorithm for it, a model for it. And for each language, this differs, of course. And then once this image is created, it can be used. For example, what I've tried is a convolutional neural network, because they are very good at recognizing, classifying images. So that works really well. And after that, I can create the model, and the hope is that the accuracy will be very high and it will be able to recognize the different words. One problem is to have enough samples. So if I have only 50 samples or 100 samples, a model could work, but the accuracy is affected. And another problem with having high accuracy is the diversity of the voices. So people can have feminine voices, masculine voices, older voices, younger voices, middle-aged voices. So voices vary quite a bit. And if I want the algorithm the model to recognize every voice with high accuracy, I need to have a diversity of data. So this is a challenge because yeah, not every language in my list, I don't have necessarily enough data for each one, but I'm sure that we can eventually find sufficient data. What I want to encourage you to do is, after the meeting, submit your yeses and nos for my application, and choose a language, for example, English, if that's convenient, or French. And I will see live your recordings coming in. And please remember to do it in a quiet space. And I want to give you a few example use cases. So my colleague Andre is working on an application called Casadoca, which provides knowledge for farmers in sub-Saharan Africa. And for that situation, it's really helpful to be able to ask questions which people can answer yes and no for what information they need. And this can make the whole process much easier than dialing digits to say what you need. And we also had a situation where doctors in Philippines who treat tuberculosis patients needed to collect information about their health. But for example, due to the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, it wasn't possible for them to be visited or to come to the hospital because their situation could be worsened. So in that situation, an automated system would work much better, and require far less resources, because on one hand you could hire a lot of people to live communicate with people, but this would be extremely costly and most of the time not possible, not feasible with the available resources. So there are many more use cases that this can be applied to. These are two that I thought about, and I'm sure in the future this system could be expanded and it could be used for many, many use cases. The long-term goals is to make sure that this system is democratized and that it's not is free of charge, that it is not commercial, so that it can be used by different NGOs and by different organizations around the world that need such a system for any language, and to promote AI as a tool that can be democratic, that isn't only for big IT companies that have massive amounts of data and that have complete control over who can and can't use their algorithms, which is the case for specific languages such as the British English or American English, in which case they have so much voice data that they can train these models and charge money for them. So yeah, make them accessible to everyone. And I believe that's the entirety of my presentation. Thank you very much. And I give the floor back to Anna.
Thank you, Vlad, for a very nice presentation. So I hope that you will show later your application, or that you will share in the chat the link to your voicesrares.nl, so that everyone during the break can give you a lot of yes and no in various languages.
Yes, exactly.
You do that? So that would be great, because then we have a lot. We can increase the corpus of data for your model, and exactly. And the plan is that if you collect during this course enough samples of utterances, that your model will be maybe ready at the end of this course, and that we can really test it in the course with the students, and that would be great for you and also for the groups.
Yes, and I'm showing right now the website, and I can actually mention it in the chat. So let's see.
Okay.
And yeah, if anyone has questions, are we taking questions now, or?
Yes, if there are questions before the break, then please raise your hands. Then George Vlad can answer your question.
I'll paste the link right now.
Yeah, there's a message.
Wait to everyone is better than just to you, Anna. There we go. That is the URL for the web application for collecting yes and no's.
Yeah. And also, if some language should be added, then please put it in the chat. Then Vlad can add that to his. So if there's a language missing, then you want to add that. Please let us know in the chat, and then also it's necessary to know how it's written yes and no in that language, and then Vlad will add that to the model, and we can start to collect. And how many utterances are necessary to recognize, for example, yes, Vlad?
Well, if the age group is in a similar group, then I think 100 is enough. But I think 100 is enough. But the more, the better. So it's not that we have to get exactly 100 and then we can be happy. But the more I have, the more diversity and the more data points, the more accurate and more reliable the model will be.
And how about voices from women and men? Does that still make a difference for the machine?
Yes. So this is where it would help to make it more democratic if we have as many voices for women as for men, as well as many younger aged individuals and older aged individuals. So Yes, the more the balance is between these, the better the accuracy is for everyone.
And how long must the recording be? Because, for example, if you let it run longer than you say yes, does that make a problem for the system, or?
Well, it automatically stops recording after 5 seconds, so you can record the maximum 5 seconds of yes or no. And after I look at the recordings, I also trim down the noise or the space that is not yes or no. So maximum 5 seconds, but basically you can stop it whenever. You can click the stop button if you're recorded it and you're finished. I think it takes 1 or 2 seconds to say yes or no. I guess depending on the language that could vary, but usually it's very short.
Okay, and when I try it on my phone, it asks me permission to share the microphone. Is that an old sentence?
Yes, it will always ask that because of data privacy. Otherwise, I could record your microphone without permission. So yes, you need to give permission to record your voice for this. And it only records your voice in this specific application, and not once you close the tab, it's not recording anything. And it only records when you click the record button, and stops recording after 5 seconds maximum. So.
Okay, so it's revoked as soon as you close the application.
Yes, it's revoked as soon.
Yes, okay, that's very reassuring. So there are a few questions. There's a question by Maria. What about increasing the potential of the machine that rates the sound? Is that possible?
Increasing the potential. By that, I'm not sure I understand the question.
The question is by Maria. Can you explain your question, Maria?
If Maria could explain better what she means.
She's not answering. Then
I mean, to increase the machine rates the sound through which measurement? I mean, which kind of measurement? I mean, to increase this potential, I mean, if it's possible to rate yes and no in places that there is people shouting, for example, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So to increase the potential, yes, if you increase the potential of the machine, then it would be possible to have more data in places that are people screaming, or you know.
Yeah. So basically, in the beginning, the aim is to get a high accuracy in quiet spaces, like in spaces where people usually speak on the phone, because usually if you're on the phone, you are not necessarily in a very loud space. So that's the first use case. But of course, with training, it's possible to help the algorithm differentiate between noise and the actual word. That can take more data though to recognize noise, and there are already models for removing noise from specific sound files. But since these are languages, most of the time are languages that are not so common, those algorithms don't function so well. So there would be further work to train these models to recognize the yes, so that then they can recognize also what's noise in the file. So this can be a loop that keeps improving over time with more data points. But in order for that, of course, you need a lot of data. If you have just 1 or 2 that are with noise, it's a bit too little to, it's a lot too little to have the machine recognize the noise from the sound.
Okay, thanks. There's another question by Hendrick, and he says, I am new in machine learning. My question is, your data set is based on image or frequency from sound?
So you can do basically anything you want when it comes to processing the data. I am recording the data as a sound, so as a in this case a digital file, sound file. But later on, when I'm doing the data processing, I convert it into an image. just because I know that the algorithm I'm trying to use in this case functions better with images and not so good with digital sound. So you can use frequency, you can use images, you can alter your sound files into any form that is more convenient for a model and gives higher accuracy. It's not necessary that I have to do it with image, but it does help for certain algorithms. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, thanks. And there are two suggestions for new languages in your system. There is from Salah Jiruni. He suggests to add Arabic to the model, and he can help you to record yes and no. And
Okay.
Francis is proposing Dagbani as a new language in your system, and that's a Ghanaian language from northern Ghana. So these are good suggestions. So you can contact them maybe during the break.
Yeah. So more languages can be added. So, and with help, if you actually speak that language, then you can help me actually make the interface in that language, because that's an obstacle too. If the interface is in English or in French, maybe that doesn't help people who don't speak English or French to record those. So having someone who speaks those languages makes it easier to add them to the system, indeed. So yes, we can add them.
Wow, that's very nice. So I hope that a lot of people will contribute with their voices to your system, your model. Chia is proposing to add the Sarawak language Malay, which is also part of one of the use cases, so very relevant for this course. And Srinivas is proposing Indian languages as well. So you have plenty of new languages in your model. That's great. So great.
And of course, it's fine to add also any language, Indian languages. Yes, any language can be added. The only important thing is to have enough people adding their voices to this, so that we have a diversity of these words.
So it will be the responsibility of those persons who add those languages also to add a number of people who want to say yes and no, at least.
Yes, if they can share it with people, that would be helpful. And also, don't forget to mention to record in a quiet space, because for now the quiet environment is more appreciated for the accuracy of the model, of the machine learning model.
Yeah. And now James is proposing Twee. I think we had already Twee in your model.
We already have Twee. Yeah. Yes,
so that's,
we have Twee in the job.
Recording, James.
But James maybe could help me with the interface for Twee, because I don't know the language.
How to translate the interface into Twee. That's very nice, and also to find maybe some people who can help with their utterances.
And I know that, sorry to interrupt, but one thing that would be helpful to add is also the instructions could be also verbal, not necessarily written, because maybe writing is not necessarily the easiest way for everyone to understand. And help with that could also be good to expand the system to be able to collect data from people who also don't read the website, who prefer audio instruction.
Vlad, can you put in the chat your email address so that a lot of people can contact you directly?
Yes, I'll put it right now. And maybe use subject, so I can so use subject watches. Okay. So this is my email, and if you use the subject voces rares, then I can know that it's about this topic.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you very much for a nice presentation, nice demo, and I think we all enjoyed it. And that comes to an end to our morning session. So we will have now a lunch break.